and a special member of the expat community. And today we have an artist in the studio, Denny.
That's right.
This is a first for Kickstart. Very exciting. I myself am not that well versed in art. I don't know about you. You're more of a literary guy, right?
Yes, I'm more literature, seeing as I have an English degree.
Yes, that's right.
But also, I'm into like comic art. That's a different thing.
Okay, right? Well, maybe we can talk a little bit about that as well. We have Mr. Mike Stewart in the studio, and once again, he is an artist that hails from America. Welcome to the studio, sir.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Not a problem. So, Mike, tell us, how long have you been in Korea for, and what exactly do you do here?
I came to Korea in April of 2007.
Okay. 2007.
I'm sorry, 2003.
2003,
okay.
So you've been here like 7 years.
7 years. I'm mixing up my times and my numbers.
That's what happens. That's what happens.
You stay here long enough.
And I'm guessing you were only planning to stay for like 2 years, right?
12 months, yeah.
Yes. And next thing you know,
I left somebody at the airport saying, I'll see you in 12 months.
And what do they say now?
I don't really keep in touch with her anymore, actually.
She was a she.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm assuming then you are here for the long term, much longer than 7 years.
Right.
And you currently are an artist as well as an art teacher, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved in teaching art in Korea?
I started looking for a studio to work in. I'm a printmaker, so I needed a printing press to work with. And I was able to find a small art school in the Hongdae area. And after taking a few printmaking classes there, just so I could have access to the studio, they asked me to actually teach a class there.
Oh.
Wow, so from student to professor.
Very quickly, actually.
Very quick. Wow. Well, let's go back a little bit in time here. Now, you said you are in printmaking, but you originally studied in Italy, is that correct?
Right. I did a semester abroad in Italy and then some private painting workshop tour also in Italy.
CC Venice one.
Right.
Wow.
A few different places in Italy I studied at. So
that's pretty hardcore. And then here in Korea, okay, so you went to a studio and you suddenly got thrust upon, this
they gave me a class. Yeah, they gave me a class, and I started with watercolor, and then I taught printmaking, and now I'm working at a different school, but it was through a connection of that first school. So right now I'm working in Myeongdong.
So your preferred medium would just be the printmaking.
Yeah, if I have access to a press, that's what I usually work with. And for my own personal art, I do printmaking. I just have to print them by hand most of the time.
Oh, man. Well, you know what? Can you, for the people who don't know much about art, can you just explain a little bit about printmaking?
Printmaking is probably best known for carving wood like into a sort of a stamp and then running it through some sort of machine or at least applying some pressure with paper, making a giant stamp basically.
And I'm pretty sure that almost every student has used that, the linoleum, was it?
Right.
You just carve it into it, make a design, and they print it over.
Yeah, a lot of Korean students know it from that, and so I have a little bit of trouble proving that it's an actual art form, not some sort of a art class assignment, craft sort of thing.
Arts and craft.
Yeah.
So, printmaking, okay, can you do this on silks? Can you do this on, is that the same thing, or is it just on paper?
It could be done on cloth. I've done a few pieces on cloth, but I usually work with paper. In Korea, I use a lot of hanji, the really thin Korean paper, because it soaks up the ink pretty easily, and I can print by hand by just sort of rubbing the back of the paper.
As opposed to have an actual press.
Yeah.
And what is your opinion on hanji?
I think it works really well for what I need it for. It's fairly smooth and it's absorbent, so it works really well. It looks nice.
Sure.
Has
Were you aware of it before coming?
I guess in America I had used something just called rice paper, and it may have been from Japan. Who knows where it was really from at the time? But that was when I was using a press, so I would use much thicker European papers.
And it looks like you had a lot of solo exhibitions as well. I'm looking through the list, and it just keeps on going. You had a lot solo exhibitions in 2009, and 2009 looks like the most.
Last year was a very busy year.
Busy
a lot of stuff just sort of domino affected, and
and most of these were in Myeongdong?
Throughout Seoul.
Okay.
Had a few in Myeongdong, Hongdae, and Insadong.
Okay, well, you know what? We're going to talk a little bit about your exhibitions and any advice you might have for expats who are trying to move into that area and set something up for themselves, because it sounds like you've got a lot of experience in that. But first, we're with Mr. Mike Stewart, who is an artist and an art teacher hailing from North America. We were talking a little bit about exhibitions. Can you tell us how you get your stuff displayed? Is it a tough process for an expat? And what advice would you have for someone else who's trying to do that, break into it?
In the past, it was kind of a tough tough thing to get into. It's a little bit hard to find places to show. And
But do you find that as an expat, you actually have an advantage over like Korean artists because they're like, oh, it's an expat's art exhibit as opposed to a Korean art exhibit?
With a group, yes, it sort of works out as a group, unless you can find a really small gallery, sort of just starting off gallery. But in Korea, the gallery style is a bit difficult to get into because you have to pay quite a large rent just to show your work there. So not many galleries are looking at your work and saying, "Oh, we really want to show you." They just look at your,
the paycheck.
bank account and say, "Yeah, we'll show
that's
you."
a little disappointing.
Yeah, so it's a bit tough. So expats tend to group together and have sort of group exhibitions quite often.
Is that the only way to do it? Do you have to always pay quote-unquote a rent, or...?
No, there are friendly galleries who will work out other plans and maybe charge a commission or even just give a free exhibition if they like you. It's all about making connections.
And so you have something called the Creatures of Habit exhibition coming up.
Right, this is a big international exhibition with the group is called International Artist Community, and this is the second exhibition they've done. It's in Insadong at J Gallery and Na Gallery, and it's quite nice because it's not just an expat exhibition, which tends to be the norm. This one has a variety of artists from quite a few different countries.
I see. So how many artists
including Korea, which is good.
Well, how many artists are in this collaboration here?
There's actually 22 in this show. It's quite large.
22?
That includes some performance artists and musicians, but yeah, it's quite a big event.
So is there a limit to how many pieces of artwork each person can contribute?
If yeah, sure. If you're a two-dimensional artist, there's a certain amount of wall space you're allowed. Things like that, yeah.
And how do you get this collaboration together? How do you get involved? Do they call you? Do you go for some network? Is there a forum? Yeah.
There's for that group, International Artist Community, there's a Facebook group. You can look it up. Just International Artist Community.
And these are all international artists in Korea?
They're international artists in Korea. They're Korean artists in Korea. Anybody can be in this group. It's quite inclusive, so it's nice.
Is there a large expat art community here?
There actually does seem to be. You know, the more you sort of spread out, I think Facebook has done a lot of
a lot of favors and connections, right?
You know, I've found out that there are quite a few, people who had studied art and then came to Korea, the same as me, just to pay off those bills or whatnot. But they find an outlet here if they can find a group to work with, which is nice.
So has living in Korea changed your artwork? I don't know what kind of art you were focused on back in the U.S., but I guess coming into Korea, looking into Korean culture and experiencing it, has your artwork changed to reflect that culture?
I think art just a person's art just kind of develops on its own, and my art is a bit tongue-in-cheek or cynical, so
I saw some of those.
Has a bit of comedy in it, so sometimes I'll put Hangul in them and make it a little bit goofy and funny, but I don't know if I've been inspired by Korean art style so much.
Okay. Well, you know what? We'll talk a little bit more about Korean art and your style and, of course, your opinion of the Korean art scene here in just a second. We're going to take a quick music break. We're going to come back in the second hour of the program. This is Deep Inside of You